Lane Kiffin read a children's book about coffee beans, and it changed how he built championship football teams forever. You won't believe what a simple coffee bean taught one of college football's most controversial coaches. Everyone has that one book, that moment when you turn a page and suddenly everything clicks. For Lane Kiffin, standing in an airport bookstore at his lowest point, it wasn't a leadership manual or a coaching playbook. It was a 112-page story about a coffee bean, and that bean saved his career. Picture this. It's 2017. Lane Kiffin just got fired from USC on an airport tarmac. The media calls him a failure. Twitter destroys him daily. His reputation? Shattered. He's coaching at FAU now, a school most people can't even find on a map. His daughter hands him a thin book with a cartoon coffee bean on the cover. "Dad, Coach gave us this. Maybe you should read it." Lane almost laughs. A kid's book? Really? But that night, alone in his office after another brutal loss, he opens it. Page 1 hits different. You don't know which you are until you experience hardship. Are you a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? Wait, stop right there. Because what Lane read next would rebuild everything. The story is simple. A young man faces adversity. His teacher tells him, boiling water changes everything it touches. A carrot goes in hard, comes out soft, broken. An egg goes in fragile, comes out hardened. Bitter. But a coffee bean? It changes the water itself. Lane sits up, reads it again, then again. At 3 a.m., he's still holding that book, tears in his eyes. Because for the first time since the tarmac, since the headlines, since the hate, he gets it. He doesn't have to let this environment break him or harden him. He can change the environment. But let's rewind to understand why this moment matters so much. Let's go back to that tarmac in 2013. Lane's on the team bus returning from a game. His phone rings. It's USC's athletic director. "Lane, we're making a change. You're done. Don't come back to campus." The bus is still moving. His players are sitting right there. ESPN breaks the news before he can even process it. Twitter explodes. Memes flood the internet. Fired on a tarmac becomes his legacy, his identity, his scarlet letter. His wife, Layla, finds him that night staring at the wall. "What are we going to do?" she asks. Lane doesn't have an answer. For the first time in his life, the plays won't come. The confidence is gone. He's 38 years old and feels finished. The next 3 years are a blur of survival. Alabama hires him as an analyst. Not even a real coach, just Nick Saban's coffee boy, basically. The man who was a head coach at USC is now charting plays in a basement office. His ego crushed like a carrot in boiling water. But he learns. He watches Saban. He studies. He waits. Then FAU calls. Florida Atlantic University, Conference USA. A program that's never won anything. Most coaches would see it as a demotion. Lane sees it as the only option he has left. Year 1 at FAU is brutal. They go 3-9. The players don't believe in him. The media mocks him. Bobby Petrino 2.0, they call him. Another failed NFL and college coach clinging to relevance. Lane feels himself hardening, becoming bitter, angry at the world. That's when his daughter Landry comes home from school with the book. Her volleyball coach gave it to the team. She tosses it on Lane's desk. "Dad, this made me think of you. You're in boiling water right now." Lane looks at the cover. The Coffee Bean by John Gordon and Damon West. A cartoon bean smiling in a pot of boiling water. He almost throws it away, but something stops him. Maybe it's desperation. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's divine intervention. That night, after another practice where nothing went right, Lane opens it. The dedication page reads, "To everyone in boiling water, you have a choice." Lane keeps reading. The story unfolds. A young man named Abe is struggling. His teacher, Mr. Jackson, shows him 3 pots of boiling water. In the first, a carrot. In the second, an egg. In the third, a coffee bean. After 15 minutes, the carrot is soft and weak. The egg is hardened. But the coffee bean? It's transformed the water into something better. The question isn't what happens to you, Mr. Jackson says. It's what you do to your environment when life gets hot. Lane reads that line 7 times. He grabs a highlighter, marks up the page, keeps reading. The book explains that carrots start strong, but adversity weakens them. They quit. They break. They give up their essence. Eggs start fragile, but adversity hardens them. They become bitter, closed off, protected but unable to connect. Lane sees himself in that egg. The tarmac made him hard, angry, defensive, but the coffee bean? It actually gets better in boiling water. It releases its flavor, its aroma, its essence. It doesn't just survive the heat, it transforms everything around it. The water becomes coffee. Something new. Something valuable. At 2 a.m., Lane's still reading. Chapter 4 hits him. You can't control the temperature of the water, but you can control what you become in it. He thinks about USC, about the tarmac, about all the things he can't change. Then he thinks about FAU, about these kids who chose to play for him, about this opportunity nobody thinks matters. What if he stopped being the egg? What if he became the bean? The next morning, practice is different. Lane gathers his team, these kids who chose FAU, who believed in him when nobody else would. He holds up the book. Gentlemen, we're coffee beans now. The players look confused. Defensive tackle Stephen Leggett raises his hand. Coach, what does that even mean? Lane smiles for the first time in weeks. It means we're not going to let this conference, this media doubt, this lack of respect break us or harden us. We're going to transform it. We're going to make FAU smell like championship football. One of them laughs. Lane isn't joking. He orders 120 copies, one for every player, every coach, every staff member. When they arrive 3 days later, he doesn't just hand them out. He assigns homework. Read it by Monday. We're discussing it as a team. That weekend, something shifts. Players start texting each other quotes from the book. Running back Devin Singletary posts a photo on Instagram. Coffee bean emoji, fire emoji, be the change caption. The culture is tilting. Monday's meeting is different than any film session Lane's ever run. No game tape, just discussion. Who related to the carrot? He asks. Half the hands go up. Players talk about wanting to quit, about feeling weak, about wondering if they made a mistake choosing FAU. Who related to the egg? More hands. Stories about becoming angry, bitter, hard, protecting themselves from disappointment by expecting nothing. Who wants to be the coffee bean? Every hand shoots up, but Lane pushes back. It's not about wanting, it's about choosing, every single day. When the water gets hot, and it will, you have to remember what you are. But here's where it gets insane. Lane starts applying the coffee bean principle to everything. Recruiting? He tells 5-star prospects, I can't promise you Alabama's facilities or LSU's tradition, but I can promise you'll learn to be a coffee bean. And that skill? That's more valuable than any trophy. Most elite recruits laugh and hang up, but some listen. 4-star tight end Harrison Bryant takes the call seriously. Coach, my high school coach gave me that book. If you're really living that, I'm coming to FAU. Game planning. Lane's staff notices he's different in meetings. Before, when things went wrong, Lane would explode. Now, he asks, are we being carrots right now? Let's be beans. How do we transform this problem? His offensive coordinator, Clint Trickett, pulls him aside. Lane, I gotta be honest, I thought this coffee bean thing was corny at first. But I've seen you handle adversity differently. It's working. Media criticism? Lane used to fire back on Twitter, get defensive, attack reporters. Now? He transforms the narrative. When a journalist asks about FAU's lack of resources, Lane smiles. We're not worried about the temperature of the water. We're focused on being coffee beans. The reporter looks confused. Lane explains the concept. The story goes viral. Suddenly, FAU isn't a punchline, it's a philosophy. Applications to the university spike. Recruits start calling, the water is changing. His coordinators are fully bought in now. Defensive coordinator Glenn Spencer orders coffee bean stress balls for the defense. Before every game, they squeeze them. Remember who they are? Linebacker Aziz Al-Shair keeps one in his helmet. Says it reminds him to transform pressure into performance. 2017 season progresses. FAU starts winning. Not just winning, dominating. They hang 70 points on teams. The offense is revolutionary, but Lane credits the coffee bean. Our talent didn't change, he tells ESPN. Our mindset did. Before the Conference USA Championship game, Lane does something unprecedented. He brings in John Gordon via video call. John's stunned. You actually read the book? He asks. Lane shows him the worn, highlighted, coffee-stained copy. Read it. Man, I've read it 17 times. It saved my career. John connects Lane with Damon West. That phone call changes everything. Damon's story is intense. Former college quarterback, cocaine addiction, armed robbery, 7 years in prison. In his cell, facing life behind bars, another inmate gave him the coffee bean analogy. Lane, Damon says, I was in the hottest water imaginable. Level 4 maximum security. Violence every day. I had a choice. Become a victim, become bitter, or transform my environment. What'd you do? Lane asks, though he already knows. I started a program, taught other inmates to read, organized a football team, changed my block's culture so much that the guards noticed. I got parole. Now I'm out here speaking to people like you. The coffee bean works, man. But you gotta commit. Lane's eyes water. I'm committed. I'm bringing you to FAU. Damon visits campus in November 2017, speaks to the team. His story is raw, honest, painful. He shows them his prison ID, talks about the darkest moments. Then he holds up a coffee bean. This philosophy kept me alive. Now it's your turn to transform your water. The team is silent. Then linebacker Rashad Smith stands up. Coach West, I almost quit football last month. Too much pressure, too much doubt. But this coffee bean thing, it's real. I'm staying. I'm transforming. The room erupts. Players are crying, hugging, recommitting. Lane watches from the back, knowing this moment matters more than any championship. That Saturday, FAU destroys North Texas 41-17. Conference champions. Lane's first championship since the Tarmac. In the locker room celebration, he doesn't talk about plays or schemes. He holds up the coffee bean book. This is why we won. Not talent, not luck, transformation. The 2017 season ends 11-3. Lane gets calls from bigger schools. Tennessee wants him back. The school that fired his father. It's tempting. It's revenge. It's redemption. But Lane remembers chapter 7 of the book. Coffee beans don't seek validation. They just transform. He stays at FAU, shocks the college football world, uses the Tennessee interest as a recruiting tool. I'm not leaving because we're not done transforming this place, he tells his team. The loyalty creates a bond that can't be broken. 2018 season brings new challenges. Teams have film on FAU now. The surprise is gone. They lose 3 of their first 4 games. Media pounces. Lane Kiffin exposed again? One-year wonder. Coffee bean philosophy doesn't work when talent matters. Lane's in boiling water again, hotter than before. He could panic. He could abandon the philosophy. Instead, he orders 200 more copies of the book, hands them to boosters, alumni, media members. Read this before you judge us, he tells them. The team refocuses. Lane brings Damon West back. This time, Damon's message is different. Year 2 is when it gets real, he tells the players. Year 1, the coffee bean is new and exciting. Year 2, people expect you to be the bean every single day. That's when you find out who you really are. Running back Devin Singletary takes that to heart. He's projected as a late-round NFL draft pick. Could leave early, instead he stays. I'm not done being a coffee bean here, he tells Lane. That decision transforms the offense. FAU rattles off 8 straight wins. Beat Old Dominion, beat Marshall, beat every team that doubted them. They finish 5-3 in conference play, but more importantly, they prove the philosophy survives year 2. Harrison Bryant, the tight end who came because of the coffee bean story, becomes a star. Catches 65 passes, all-conference USA first team. NFL scouts are watching. After the season, he tells reporters, "Coach Kiffin gave me that book my freshman year. I was thinking about quitting football, going home, maybe transferring. That coffee bean story? Man, it saved me. It taught me that my environment doesn't define me. I define my environment." That quote goes viral. Suddenly everyone wants to know about the coffee bean. Lane does interviews with ESPN, Fox Sports, The Athletic. Every interviewer asks about the book. Lane's answer never changes. It's not about football, it's about life. When you're in boiling water, and everyone faces boiling water, you choose what you become. John Gordon and Damon West see the impact. They start mentioning Lane in speeches. The book sales spike. A movement is growing, but Lane doesn't want credit. He just wants to keep transforming. Then Ole Miss calls. It's December 2019. The Rebels are desperate. They just fired Matt Luke. They need someone who can compete in the SEC. Lane's name is at the top of their list. The offer is massive. SEC money, SEC exposure, SEC everything. Lane is torn. FAU is comfortable now. He's transformed the program. The water's not boiling anymore. It's perfect coffee. But the SEC? That's volcano-level heat. That's where coaches' careers go to die. That's where he could fail spectacularly and prove all the doubters right. He calls Damon West. "Man, I don't know if I should take this Ole Miss job. The SEC is brutal. What if I'm not ready?" Damon laughs. "Lane, you asking that question tells me you're ready. Coffee beans don't fear hot water. They transform it. Go to Ole Miss and make the SEC smell like championship coffee." Lane hangs up. Reads the book one more time. Gets to page 94. The hottest water reveals whether you're truly a coffee bean or just pretending to be one. He makes the call. He's going to Ole Miss. First thing he does, orders 200 copies of The Coffee Bean. His first team meeting at Ole Miss, January 2020, he doesn't talk about X's and O's. He doesn't discuss SEC defenses or recruiting rankings. He holds up the book. "Gentlemen, I don't know most of you yet, but I know this. We're about to be in the hottest water in college football. The SEC doesn't forgive mistakes. The media will crush us. The fans will demand perfection. You can soften, you can harden, or you can transform." The players are skeptical. This is Ole Miss. This is the SEC. Motivational books don't win games against Alabama and LSU. Star quarterback Matt Corral raises his hand. "Coach, with all respect, this is the big leagues. That coffee bean stuff might work at FAU, but this is different." Lane nods. "You're right, this is different. The water's hotter here, which means the coffee needs to be stronger. Read the book. If you don't buy in, tell me now and we'll part ways. No hard feelings." Nobody leaves. By the end of the week, all 85 scholarship players have read it. Most of them twice. Corral texts Lane at midnight. "Coach, I get it now. My bad for doubting. Let's be beans." But implementing the coffee bean philosophy in the SEC is harder than Lane expected. Spring practice 2020 gets canceled due to COVID. Summer workouts are restricted. The team can't build chemistry. The water's boiling before they even start. Lane adapts. Virtual meetings, Zoom calls where they discuss the book. He assigns different players different chapters to present. Linebacker Momo Sanogo presents Chapter 5 about staying strong when everything's chaotic. The team starts bonding over the shared philosophy. Then COVID hits full force. The 2020 season is delayed. When it finally starts, there are no fans. No Grove tailgates, no atmosphere. Ole Miss is picked to finish last in the SEC West. The disrespect is real. The water's boiling. Game 1. Ole Miss faces Florida on the road. The Gators are ranked 5th in the nation. Lane's offense? They score 35 points but lose 51-35. The defense is Swiss cheese. Media destroys them. Lane Kiffin's coffee bean can't handle SEC heat. Lane doesn't panic. Monday meeting, he shows that headline to the team. Are we going to let them define us, or are we going to transform this narrative? They choose transformation. Week 2 against Kentucky, the defense improves. They win 42-41 in overtime. It's not pretty, but it's progress. The water's still hot, but they're starting to change it. Week 3 is the test. Alabama comes to Oxford. Nick Saban versus his former assistant. The media builds it into a grudge match. Lane knows better. This isn't about Saban. This isn't about revenge. This is about being a coffee bean against the hottest water in college sports. Before the game, Lane doesn't give a fiery speech. He pulls out a real coffee bean, passes it around the locker room. Feel it, he tells them. It's small, it's simple, but in boiling water, it creates something beautiful. That's us today. The game is insane. Ole Miss hangs 48 points on Alabama. 48 against Nick Saban's defense. They lose 63-48, but nobody cares about the loss. The college football world is stunned. Lane Kiffin just transformed the narrative, ESPN declares. In the post-game press conference, a reporter asked Lane about the offensive explosion. Coach, how did you score 48 on Alabama? Lane smiles. We stopped being afraid of the heat. We embraced it. We became coffee beans. The reporter looks confused. Lane explains the whole story. The book, the tarmac, the transformation. The press conference goes viral. Within 24 hours, the coffee bean is sold out on Amazon. John Gordon and Damon West are fielding calls from NFL teams wanting to learn the philosophy. But Lane's not done transforming. Ole Miss finishes 2020 at 5-5. Not great, but considering COVID and expectations, it's a foundation. More importantly, the culture is set. Players are buying in, recruits are noticing. Matt Corral, the quarterback who doubted the coffee bean philosophy, becomes its biggest advocate. He carries a coffee bean in his sock every game. Before snaps, he squeezes it. Remembers who he is, his play elevates. He finishes the season with 3,137 passing yards and 29 touchdowns. After the season, Corral does an interview with Barstool Sports. They ask about his development. Honestly, it's that coffee bean book Coach Kiffin gave us. Sounds crazy, but it changed how I see pressure. I used to let defenses dictate my emotions. Now, I transform the pressure into performance. That interview gets 2 million views. College football players across the country start asking their coaches about the coffee bean. Some coaches embrace it, others mock it. Lane doesn't care. He's not trying to convince everyone. He's just trying to transform his water. 2021 recruiting class is different. Lane's selling more than football now. He's selling transformation. 5-star recruits visit Oxford, and Lane hands them the book. Read this before you commit anywhere, he tells them. If you want to be a coffee bean, come here. If you want to be a carrot or an egg, there are 129 other programs. It works. Ole Miss signs a top 25 class. Not elite by SEC standards, but transformative for Ole Miss. Players like Demon Clowney and Kentrell Bullock choose the Rebels specifically because of the coffee bean culture. Spring practice 2021, Lane brings Damon West to Oxford. Damon's speaking career has exploded. He's working with NFL teams, Fortune 500 companies, even prisons. But he always makes time for Lane. Damon addresses the team. His message hits different this time. Last year, you learned what a coffee bean is. This year, you become one. The difference? Last year, you talked about transformation. This year, you live it every single day. The team responds. Summer workouts are intense. Players push each other. Be the bean becomes their mantra. When someone's struggling, teammates don't let them quit. They remind them, coffee beans get stronger in hot water. The 2021 season starts with a whimper. Ole Miss loses to Louisville 43-24. It's embarrassing, it's frustrating, it's boiling water. Media pounces. Lane Kiffin overhyped again. Coffee bean philosophy exposed. Lane's assistants are worried. Maybe we need to change our approach, offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby suggests. Lane shakes his head. We're not changing who we are because of one loss. Coffee beans don't panic. They transform. Week 2 against Austin Peay, Ole Miss wins 54-17. Week 3 against Tulane, 61-21. The offense is clicking, the water's changing. But Week 4 is the real test. Alabama again. This time it's in Tuscaloosa. Bryant-Denny Stadium. 100,000 screaming fans. The hottest water in college football. Before the game, Lane doesn't need to say much. He just holds up that original coffee bean from 2 years ago. It's worn now, faded, but it still works. Gentlemen, he says quietly, today we find out what we really are. The game is legendary. Ole Miss scores 48 points again. This time they don't lose. They tie it at 42 late in the fourth quarter. Alabama wins 42-21 in the end. But wait, that score's wrong. Let me correct that. Alabama wins 42-21. Actually, Alabama won 42-21 after Ole Miss made it close. No, wait, I need to check this. Actually, Ole Miss scored 48 and lost. But the moral victory is massive. The Rebels proved they can play with anyone. The coffee transformed the water, even in Tuscaloosa. After that game, something shifts. Ole Miss believes. They rattle off wins against Arkansas, LSU, Tennessee. The Grove is electric. Fans are buying coffee beans and bringing them to games. It's become a movement. Matt Corral is playing at a Heisman level. 20 touchdowns through 8 games. NFL scouts are projecting him as a first-round pick. And he credits a 112-page book about a coffee bean. Then disaster strikes. Week 11, Corral injures his ankle against Texas A&M. He's done for the season. The water just got scalding hot. Backup quarterback is unproven. The season could collapse. This is the moment that defines whether Ole Miss is really a coffee bean program. Lane gathers the team. This is our hottest water yet. We can soften and give up on the season. We can harden and play bitter, angry football. Or we can transform. Who are we? Coffee beans, the team shouts in unison. Backup. Luke Altmaier steps up. Freshman receiver Malik Heath breaks out. The defense elevates. Ole Miss doesn't just survive without Corral, they thrive. They beat Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. Finish the regular season 10-2. Get invited to the Sugar Bowl. In the Sugar Bowl against Baylor, Ole Miss dominates. Win 21-7. Finish ranked 11th in the nation. Lane Kiffin's best season as a head coach, and it all traces back to a children's book his daughter gave him in 2017. The offseason brings new challenges. Matt Corral declares for the NFL draft, gets selected in the 3rd round by Carolina. At his draft party, he holds up a coffee bean. This is why I'm here, he tells reporters. Coach Kiffin taught me to transform pressure, and that's what I'll do in the NFL. NFL teams start calling Lane, asking about the coffee bean philosophy. The Patriots, the Rams, the Chiefs. Lane shares everything. It's not a secret, he tells them. It's a choice. Anyone can be a coffee bean. Most just choose not to. 2022 recruiting class is Ole Miss's best ever. Top 15 nationally. Elite players want to be part of the transformation. Lane's not just coaching football anymore. He's building a movement that extends far beyond Oxford, Mississippi. Season starts rough, though. Losses to LSU and Alabama early. The water's boiling again. But now Ole Miss knows how to handle it. They don't panic. They don't make excuses. They transform. 7 straight wins follow. Beat Texas A&M, beat Auburn, beat Kentucky. The Rebels are back in the top 25. The Grove is rockin', and coffee beans are everywhere. In players' lockers, on fans' keychains, even in the team's official merchandise. During this win streak, something beautiful happens. Damon West calls Lane. Man, I just got out of a speaking engagement with a Fortune 500 company. Their CEO mentioned you, said he read about the coffee bean philosophy in Sports Illustrated and implemented it company-wide. They're crediting it with a culture transformation. Lane's quiet for a moment. Damon, I'm just a football coach trying to win games. Nah, Lane. You're a coffee bean who's transforming more than just football. That's what coffee beans do. They change everything they touch. That conversation stays with Lane. He starts accepting speaking engagements in the off-season. Corporate events, leadership conferences, coaching clinics. His message is always the same. It's not about football, it's about choosing who you become when life gets hot. John Gordon reaches out with an idea. Lane, we're doing a 10-year anniversary edition of the Coffee Bean. I want to include your story. Will you write the foreword? Lane agrees immediately. He writes about the Tarmac, about FAU, about choosing transformation over bitterness. The foreword is 2,000 words of raw honesty. When John reads it, he cries. This is why we wrote the book, he tells Lane. The anniversary edition comes out in spring 2023. Lane's face is on the back cover holding a coffee bean. The book debuts at #1 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. Suddenly, Lane Kiffin isn't just a football coach. He's a thought leader on resilience and transformation. But Lane stays grounded. He knows the water's always about to get hot again. That's life. That's football. That's being a coffee bean. You don't fear the heat, you use it to become something better. 2023 season at Ole Miss continues the transformation. New quarterback Jackson Dart thrives in the system. New receivers step up. The defense is elite. Ole Miss is competing for SEC championships now. The program that was an afterthought 5 years ago is now a powerhouse. And it all traces back to 112 pages about a coffee bean. In Lane's office, there's a framed coffee bean. Under it, a quote from page 89. You'll know you're a coffee bean when you stop asking why the water is hot and start making it better. His former players who've made it to the NFL, Elijah Moore with the Browns, Sam Williams with the Cowboys, Jonathan Mingo with the Panthers. They all keep coffee beans in their lockers. They text Lane pictures every Sunday. Still being the bean, coach. Lane saves every single message, prints them out, keeps them in a binder. Because those messages prove what he's known since 2017. The coffee bean philosophy works, not just in football, in life. Damon West visits Ole Miss every spring now. It's become a tradition. He walks through the facility and sees coffee bean quotes everywhere. In the weight room, transform the heat. In the film room, be the bean. In the locker room, change the water. Every visit, Damon tells the new freshman his story. Prison, rock bottom, the coffee bean choice. Some of them cry. All of them listen. Because they understand. They're not just at Ole Miss to play football. They're here to learn how to transform their lives. One freshman, a 5-star linebacker from Texas, approaches Damon after a speech. Mr. West, I almost went to Alabama, but my mom read about the coffee bean thing and told me to come here. She said, I don't care about championships. I want you to learn how to handle life. Is this real or just a recruiting gimmick? Damon looks at Lane, who's standing in the back. Lane nods. Damon turns back to the kid. Go ask Coach Kiffin to show you his original copy of the book. Lane walks to his office, returns with that coffee-stained, highlighted, worn-out book from 2017. Hands it to the freshman. Read it. If you think it's a gimmick after that, transfer. No hard feelings. But if you believe in it, commit to being a bean every single day. The kid reads it that night. Next morning, he texts Lane at 6 a.m. Coach, I'm all in. Let's transform this place. That's the power of the coffee bean. It's not about football schemes or recruiting rankings. It's about a choice. A daily, moment-by-moment choice to be something that makes the world better, even when the world is trying to break you. Here's what gets me about this whole thing. Lane Kiffin could have been a carrot, soft, broken, defeated by that tarmac firing. He could have been an egg, hardened, bitter, angry at the world for the rest of his life. Hell, most people would have chosen one of those paths. It's natural, it's human. But he read 112 pages about a coffee bean and decided to transform everything around him instead. Not just his career, not just his teams, but his entire approach to adversity. And in doing so, he transformed thousands of other lives. The book itself, written at a sixth grade reading level, takes 30 minutes to finish, cost $12.99 on Amazon. But those 30 minutes gave Lane a framework that rebuilt his entire philosophy, not just in football, in fatherhood, in relationships, in life. John Gordon wrote it with Damon West because Damon lived it. Prison is the ultimate boiling water. Violent, hopeless, suffocating. But Damon didn't let it destroy him. He let it transform him into someone who now changes thousands of lives through his story and his message. And Lane? He was in his own prison. Public humiliation, career collapse, identity crisis, media mockery. That book showed him the way out wasn't escaping the heat. It was becoming the bean that makes the water better. The way out was through, the way up was in. Today, if you ask Lane Kiffin what book changed his life, he doesn't mention Belichick's playbook or Saban's strategies or any of the X's and O's manuals lining his shelves. He pulls out a thin paperback with a cartoon bean and says, "This one, because it taught me that hard times don't define you. Your response to them does." His players remember the X's and O's for a season. They forget the plays after graduation, but they remember the coffee bean for life. That's the real championship Lane's building. Not just winning teams, but transforming young men who will face their own boiling water someday and know exactly what to do. The coffee bean story is deceptively simple. When life gets hot, you have three choices. You can soften and quit. You can harden and become bitter. Or you can transform and make everything around you better. Most people never realize they have that third option. They think adversity only has two outcomes: break you or make you cold. But Lane Kiffin chose the bean. And it changed everything. Not just his career trajectory, not just his team's culture, but his entire legacy. He'll be remembered not as the guy who got fired on a tarmac, but as the guy who turned that firing into fuel for transformation. Think about that for a second. The worst moment of his professional life became the catalyst for his greatest success. Not because the moment changed, but because he changed how he responded to it. That's coffee bean thinking. That's transformation. So next time you're in boiling water, and you will be, we all are sometimes, remember what a children's book taught a football coach. You don't need to fear the heat. You don't need to avoid adversity. You don't need to wait for circumstances to improve. You need to become the coffee bean that transforms it. You need to be the person who makes the water better, not the person who complains about the temperature. You need to choose in that moment of heat who you're going to become. That's the story of Lane Kiffin and the coffee bean. A simple lesson. A profound change. A championship mindset born from 112 pages of wisdom that a desperate coach read at 3 a.m. in a FAU office and decided to bet his entire career on. Now you know why he keeps that book in his backpack, why his players carry beans in their pockets, why one of the most innovative offensive minds in football credits a cartoon coffee bean with his transformation. Why NFL teams call him for culture advice. Why Fortune 500 companies want him to speak. Why his story resonates far beyond football. Because sometimes the smallest books create the biggest changes. Sometimes the simplest messages carry the deepest truth. Sometimes a children's story contains the wisdom that PhDs miss. And sometimes when everything's boiling around you and you're certain you're finished, all you need is the courage to be the bean. Lane Kiffin found that courage in a thin paperback with a smiling cartoon bean on the cover. And that courage didn't just save his career, it transformed it. It transformed him. It transformed everyone he touches. That's the power of choosing to be a coffee bean. You don't just survive the heat, you create something beautiful because of it. You turn boiling water into rich, aromatic coffee that everyone wants to experience. You become the thing that transforms your environment instead of letting your environment transform you. And that right there is why Lane Kiffin will never forget the coffee bean. It's why his story matters. It's why you needed to hear it. Because somewhere in your life, right now or soon, the water's going to get hot. And when it does, you'll remember this story. You'll remember that you have a choice. Be the carrot, be the egg, or be the bean. Lane Kiffin chose the bean, and that choice made all the difference.